Hello, welcome to our tea bus tour of the Charleston Tea Plantation, America's only tea farm. I'm Bill Hall, an expert third-generation tea taster trained in London, England, and partner of the Charleston Tea Plantation. On this tour, I'm going to tell you more about the amazing tea plant and give you a look behind the scenes of a working tea farm on which it grows. So please enjoy your trip as we travel through the fields of the Charleston Tea Plantation.
Alrighty everyone, you might be wondering to yourselves, how on earth did these crazy folks get a tea plantation started in, of all places, North America? We'll leave it to none other than a third-generation tea taster such as the likes of Bill Hall, who was classically trained in tea tasting in London, England. I mean, where else are you going to become classically trained in tea tasting, am I right? He went through this program where what he would do is drink 500 to 800 different types of tea every day, 5 days a week, for a total of 4 years. You don't want to imagine the bathroom breaks. No, of course not. Now, like I said, it was only his efforts that he got the commercial aspects of our plantation running in '87, but I'll have you know, tea cultivation on Wadmalaw Island actually goes back a little further than that. Matter of fact, it goes back to 1963. That's right in the dead heat of the Cold War. You see, Western powers such as Great Britain and the United States were not willing to trade with the communist government of China, which happened to have a monopoly on the tea trade at the time. And likewise, China was unwilling to trade with the West. So Lipton, a British tea company, they had to figure out how to get around that tea embargo. And they ultimately decided, they said, hey, North America happens to be a big consumer of ours, so how about we try to build a tea plantation right there in their backyards? They ultimately decided on little old Wadmalaw Island because we have nice sandy soil. It's awfully hot and humid year-round. And we also get plenty of rainfall year-round too, which is perfect for these plants. But I'll have you know, this wasn't the first time that tea cultivation for commercial purposes got started in South Carolina. As a matter of fact, that goes back a little further than that. Matter of fact, it goes back to the late 19th century. You see, about 30 miles or so east of here, near a town called Somerville, there's a guy by the name of Dr. Charles Shepherd. And in 1888, he imported 100 specimens of the tea plant directly from China. And out near Somerville, he got started with a tea plantation. He called it PamFurst Plantation. And he must have known what he was doing because as of 1904, the 1904 World's Fair, hosted in St. Louis, Missouri, by the way, he was lauded as, get this, having the world's best tea. Okay? And keep in mind, he was competing with folks from the likes of China and India, people who also know their stuff. So like I said, he must have known a thing or two about tea. Now, unfortunately, one thing led to another. He ended up passing away in 1915. His wife continued the plantation all by her lonesome. She couldn't sell it to anybody either. So the tea plants there out there on PamFurst ended up growing in disarray for nearly half a century. So over the course of those 50 years, the plants actually hybridized with one another. They cross-pollinated with one another, became an endemic subspecies native only to North America. How about that? Now, flash forward to 1963, Lipton was well aware of what had taken place out there on PamFurst so many years ago, so they actually ended up going out to Somerville, and they got some of the tea specimens for themselves, brought them back to Wadmalaw Island. And as a matter of fact, you take a look to the right-hand side of the trolley, it's what we call the Lipton Research Field to this very day. Excuse me, folks, I'm getting ahead of myself. These were the first fields to be planted on the farm back in 1963. You got 320 different varieties, 25,000 plants strong. Now, I won't bore you with the details, but owing to a thawing of geopolitical tensions around wrong with that, but it's not our tea, okay, folks? Bigelow, they're actually headquartered all the way up in Fairfield, Connecticut. You can't grow right much tea in Connecticut now, can you? Of course not. So as with any Western tea company, what they have to do is they have to import the stuff from Southeast Asia. Specifically, they get it from India and Sri Lanka. Now, if you want to get a hold of our American-grown tea, look no further than the Charleston Tea Plantation logo. Of course, you can help yourself with as much as you can carry out of the gift shop this afternoon, but whenever you go back home, wherever home might be, if you want to get a hold of more of our stuff, and why wouldn't you, it's delicious, just go online to our webpage. You can punch in your address to our store locator, and you can figure out if you happen to have a store near you that sells some of our products, okay? We sell them all across the country. Even got a couple of stores all the way up in Canada, from what I understand, so if you're interested, check that out. However, if it turns out that you don't happen to have a store near you that sells our wares, fret not. It's the 21st century, folks. Go on Amazon. Now, harvesting season is anywhere from April to late October. What we do prior to each and every harvest season is we have this specially outfitted tractor, and what we'll do is we'll actually run it along each and every row that comprises our fields right here. We give what we like to call a buzz cut to the plants. The reason we call it a buzz cut is because we're cutting back those old growth leaves that have been sitting there all winter long. They're very waxy and filmy, and if they were getting incorporated into your tea, that would prove to be quite a bitter brew. You don't want to have a bitter tea now, do you? Of course not. So we save you the hassle. We give them that buzz cut. Then April rolls around. Let it sit for a grand total of 20 days. You get these tender shoots of new growth that crop up on the top of the plants, averaging out to about 2 to 4 inches or so in height. That is what we ultimately cut, harvest, and process into the tea that you guys have a chance to enjoy in the gift shop. Okay, everyone? Now, harvest season ends around late October, like I said. Anybody have any ideas as to what event might herald the end of the harvest season?
Halloween. Halloween.
A lot of people say Halloween. I don't know if they think that we scare the plants into dormant. Not quite that. As a matter of fact, you can see the remnants of it right here, okay, folks? It's the bloom. These plants bloom late October. You can see a couple of white petals right here in this field. They have that dense yellow center. They bloom like camellias because they are camellias. Their scientific name is Camellia sinensis. That latter part of the species name is sinensis.
Yeah,
The
the
camellia
camellia
come from China, like I made mention of earlier. Okay, they're related to the Camellia japonica and sasango, which, if you're from the south, you might happen to have some in your backyards. But word of advice: don't go picking the leaves from any old run-of-the-mill camellia plant. Start trying to make a tea out of that. That's going to prove to be a bitter brew as well. The only
Was the first field to be planted on the farm. These tea plants grew from cuttings taken from tea plants that were brought into this country from looking at a real piece of living American history. There are over 320 varieties of Camellia sinensis in this field. This is the only plant used to make tea. Green, oolong, and black tea all come from the same plant. Tea loves high temperature, high humidity, and good rainfall. And of course, Charleston provides all these in large quantities. Tea, however, does not like wet feet. This means soggy roots. As you ride around, you'll notice we have many ditches next to the tea fields. This is for good drainage. The soil here is fairly sandy, which allows the rain to drain quickly into the ditches and away from the tea plants. We are proud of the restoration project that has taken place with our plants. Teaming with R.C. Bigelow Tea back in 2003 has provided the plantation with the needed resources to care for our fields and bring modern horticultural practices to the farm. This will assure that America's only tea garden has a bright and healthy future. Since 2003, we've been able to more than double the previous year's production of fresh leaf harvested from the fields. This enables us to bring more of American Classic's great taste to more and more tea lovers. Now sit back and enjoy the views as we journey past more tea fields into the back of our farm.
I wonder if the tea rooms need.
Alrighty, everybody. During the weekdays, I'll go ahead and tell you, you might notice a couple of heads bobbing up and down in between the fields. Of course, you won't notice them today, it being Sunday, but I'll go ahead and tell you what they're doing anyway. Those people out there in the fields are pulling weeds. That's right, y'all heard me correctly. We employ people to pull weeds out here in these fields. The reason we got to do that is because we're proud to say that we're as anti-chemical as you could possibly be here at the Charleston Tea Plantation. Don't use near an insecticide, pesticide, fungicide, herbicide, you name it, we don't use it. That's why we have to employ people to pull weeds out here. And as a matter of fact, seeing how today's their day off, we got a couple of unused work gloves in the gift shop. Any good Samaritans in the audience, we'd certainly appreciate the help.
Where's my glove?
Now, you guys might have noticed people coming up with all sorts of wacky flavors of putting tea nowadays. I personally prefer my tea to be a bit on wraparound myself. Here at the Charleston Tea Plantation, we're trying to keep things as realistic as we possibly can. What you see right here is one of our more popular flavored teas. This is our Plantation Peach. If you guys haven't had a chance to try it, once you get back into the gift shop, do yourself a favor and grab yourself a cup. It won't disappoint. But if you're wondering how we go about flavoring some of our teas, I'll give you the inside scoop. What we do is we get a 55-gallon barrel drum. We line the bottom of it with our processed tea leaves, and then we extract the essence and oils from all natural sources. Those are honest-to-goodness peaches that go in our plantation peach tea, okay, everybody? Then what we do is we spray that into the bottom of the barrel as well. And we layer and spray until we hit the tippy top of the barrel, at which point we're going to clam the thing shut, slosh it around for about 20 minutes, and then let it sit for a grand total of 72 hours. Now keep in mind, our processed tea leaves are at about 2% moisture content. So what do you think happens over the course of those 72 hours, huh? Exactly, it soaks up all that peachy goodness, which is what ultimately makes our plantation peach tea, as well as all the other flavor teas that we have to offer here at the Charleston Tea Plantation. Now, speaking of offering things to you guys, we're getting a little experimental here at the Charleston Tea Plantation. We have these lotions for you guys to try. Green tea is believed to be full of antioxidants and chock full of all sorts of pharmaceutical benefits for you all. So we actually have some green tea lotion for you guys to try right here in the trolley. We also happen to have a green tea mango variant in the gift shop. If you guys want to try that out for yourselves, feel free to do so. But don't go eating the mango lotion. I kid. It's tempting as it may be. Please don't do that. But lather that on the skin. Can't help but be good for you. While you're doing that, I got something to confide in you all about, okay? I was born and raised in the South. You know what that means? That means up until just a couple of years or so ago, I could have told you, with confidence, mind you, that there were only two different types of tea, okay? Sweet tea and unsweet tea. Turns out there's all sorts of different types of tea depending on how you go about defining it, okay? For the purposes of our tour this afternoon, we're going to concern ourselves with four of them, two of which we make right here on site. That's going to be green tea and black tea. Those are the only two types of tea that we have to offer. However, there's another type of tea I'm sure you guys have probably heard of, oolong tea. Of course you've heard of oolong tea. You haven't had a chance to try out oolong tea. If you want to imagine it for yourselves, it's kind of a more mellow version of black tea. It's only oxidized for about 15 to 20 minutes, whereas black tea is oxidized anywhere from 50 minutes to an hour. And it's that oxidization process that ultimately gives black tea its smoky, robust flavor profile. Now, there's another type of tea you guys might not have heard of, okay? Any of y'all ever heard of about white tea, however, it isn't processed from the tea leaves, processed from the leaf bud. It's spindle of new growth before the leaves unfurl. Actually, it would take upwards of 100 of these leaf buds to make a typical serving of white tea. Whereas if you get a typical serving of black tea, it's only going to run you about 32 tea leaves.
We already
You guys
got
might
some.
imagine labor costs for that would ultimately trickle
I guess
down
we
to you guys.
crossed
You don't
over.
want to have inordinately overpriced tea. And also, on top of that, we don't have the machinery to sift the leaf from the chaff, so to speak.
Now you have
The
soft
leaves from
hands.
the leaf buds. So unfortunately, white tea won't be coming to our shelves anytime soon.
Smells good.
Does that mean I can
Now,
touch
there's
somebody?
all sorts of
Not
stuff
me.
that's masquerading as tea nowadays that technically isn't tea. Y'all heard of herbal teas, haven't you? Y'all heard of chamomile tea? I'm sure you've heard of chamomile tea. Now, I'll be honest with you, don't tell anybody in the gift shop about this, but I happen to enjoy myself a nice glass of chamomile tea every now and then. It helps put me to bed at night, folks. But chamomile tea, it comes from the chamomile plant. Who would have thought? Herbal teas are just herbs and water. They're flowers and water. The only honest goodness tea you're going to find on the face of the planet comes from the thing you see out in the fields like this. Okay, folks? The Camellia sinensis. Can't reiterate that enough. The reason that people call certain beverages tea, and technically speaking, they're not actually tea, because actual tea, the stuff that comes from the Camellia sinensis plant, is the second most commonly consumed beverage in the world. If you call something tea, people are more than likely going to buy it. Horrible marketing ploy than anything else. But here we are, this is the last thing I'll leave you with before we move on to our next leg of the tour. This is what I Bill Hall plays golf when y'all aren't. As a matter of fact, sometimes he makes me caddy for him on the weekend. I'm happy doing this afternoon. But you notice we've got a couple of vacant spots up here. We're only 60% planted here at the Charleston Tea Plantation, but we're slowly but surely trying to get to 100% planted as we speak. Once we get past the greenhouse around to another stop of ours, the back 40, you guys will see what I'm talking about. Are there any questions? Thank you, Mayor. I'm surprised nobody's run off with these yet. Yes, I saw this hand first.
Do you have bees here to help with pollination?
We do, however, we don't have them on site, and also we're not concerned with cross-pollination between our plants to produce any seedlings, because what we do is something straight out of science fiction. We propagate our plants. We clone these things. You'll remember I made mention of the fact that we have 320 different varieties in the Lipton research field. What Bill did back in '87 is he hand-selected the 8 hardiest varieties of the bunch, the ones that were the least susceptible to environmental conditions. We made clones from them. The reason we don't use soybeans here is because it's what I call a genetic gamble. You never know what you're going to get. When it comes to these 8 varieties, we know exactly what we're going to get. They're the cream of the crop, so to speak. And we're fulfilling the old adage of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I saw another hand over here.
When was tea first cultivated?
It's the first time I've gotten
You
that.
broke him.
Poor guy.
I will say this. It depends on if you want archaeological origins or mythological origins. There's actually around, 4,000 years ago, there was a supposed mythical, quasi-mythical emperor of China by the name of Shu Nong. And he was kind of considered a deity of some sort. He is believed to have taught humans how to farm, according to Chinese mythology. However, I believe the first recorded written records of Chinese cultivation are dated to the 3rd century before Christ. It's I think it's a long poem, and it might be an epic poem entitled the Cha-Ching, which is a poem about tea cultivation. I forget exactly who might have authored that piece, but that's the first written record of Chinese of tea cultivation in China.
Thank you.
I had to go back. Still got a couple minutes left in the tour, so. Are there any other questions? If not, I'll direct your attention to the left-hand side of the trolley. That white shack right on over there is the pond transfer system. Bill Hall likes to talk an awful lot about irrigation. He is, first and foremost, a farmer. I'll take y'all around to the greenhouse, okay?
He looked it up. I think it's
Yes,
18
ma'am. I actually saw this morning.
Oh, okay. Well, I figure beer dates back 6,000 years. So.
Charleston Tea Plantation is located on a very special piece of land in the Low Country. Nestled away just 25 minutes from historic downtown Charleston, Wadmalaw Island has been able to maintain its agricultural roots and also has an amazing history of its own. As you drove down Maybank Highway, did it seem as if you were going back into another period of time? It's a feeling island residents guard like a precious jewel. On the left is our pond transfer system. It allows us to move water to and from each of our 3 ponds depending on the demand from our irrigation system. Tea likes about 1 inch of water per week or 52 inches per year. Normally, Mother Nature provides us with enough rainfall. However, sometimes she can be a little stingy, and for baby plants in the field, this can be a problem. That's when our irrigation kicks in and provides the water needed to keep them happy. Tea, once mature, is a very hardy plant, which can live for hundreds of years. In fact, there are tea plants on record 600 years old and still producing a fine quality tea. Our season begins in April and runs through the end of October. During that time, the new leaves grow up every 18 to 20 days. Therefore, we stagger the farm into 20 sections for harvesting, 1 section per day. By the 20th day, we're back at the original field. We're proud to say that we do not use any pesticides in the growing of our tea. You might see some weeds growing up above the plants, but rest assured, these are hand-pulled before we harvest that field.
That's certainly an important source of pride for us here at the Charleston Tea Plantation. In fact, we don't have to use any pesky chemicals out here in these fields. The reason we're so fortunate not to have to do that is because, remember, where do these plants come from? They come from China. They come from East Asia. So technically speaking, from a biologist perspective, these things are actually an invasive species, which means that there's no natural predators here in the continent of North America that might want to eat this stuff. Insects, bugs of all kinds, even white-tailed deer, your farmers might know what I'm talking about, they don't come near this stuff. You know why? You're like coffee. It took a second. It's a claim some people don't realize that that's a joke. Actually, it's the exact opposite. Don't let me confuse you. All of those pesky critters are actually repelled by the caffeine and the tannic acids, which happen to be in the tea leaves. Doubly fortunate for us means we don't have to use any chemicals out here in these fields. Also means we don't have to compete with any caffeine-crazed deer jumping up. How about that? But here we are at the greenhouse. You want to see some cute little baby plants? Okay, I got
This is the coal bus we just drove up here in. And this is the greenhouse we're going in. I don't think I'm going to be able to see anything because there's so many people.
Right. Yes.
Oh, wow.
this side of the wall. That way I can get in front of you. I like to be the center of attention, I don't know if you can tell. One of the reasons why I became a tour guide after all. Now welcome to the greenhouse, everybody. This is a state-of-the-art facility. Bill can be on his laptop fiddling around with the climate controls in here. And as you'll notice, we actually have a couple of plants right near the back, mostly been vacated owing to the tireless efforts of Miss Cheryl. What she's been doing is over the long, arduous summers we've had, she's been taking the plants that have been in the greenhouse, putting them out in the garden plots right on over there, trying to hardy them up, get them used to the real world, okay? And we try to simulate real-world conditions here in the greenhouse as much as we possibly can. What you see overhead in the greenhouse is a layer of tin. That acts as cloud coverage, okay? Because these things, when they're saplings, they're very susceptible to sunlight. If you were to have them out in the fields, especially in the middle of the summer, they might burn out right then and there. Obviously, don't want that to happen, so it takes months to wean these things on the sun. That's why we got a layer of tin acting as cloud coverage. Now, you'll see the spigots hanging down from the ceiling. Early on in their infancy, what we'll do is we'll water them twice a day, 25 seconds a pop. But as old as these things were, what we would do is we'd actually starve them for water for 4 or 5 days at a time. Sounds terribly rude of us, but I'll go ahead and tell you it serves a good purpose. Because if you don't give them the water, guess what these things will do? They'll start looking for it themselves, okay? We're trying to create a nice, strong, independent root bulb. Exactly. I don't know if you ever heard, but Bill Hall made mention of, in the trolley, just a couple of moments or so ago, that some of these plants estimate to live upwards of 600 years old. We don't want to leech off of us for that long. Well, we're trying to create a nice, strong root bulb. That way they can be independent big boys and girls out there in the fields, okay, folks? And we also got to keep an eye on the air temperature in here. Whenever it gets too hot for these plants, what we'll do, really nifty contraption. Got an example of it right on over here, is a swamp pool. Apparently they're quite common out west. It's got this corrugated cardboard, honeycomb-like texture to it. You drip cold water onto the thing.
How long did you say they stay in here?
They typically will stay in here for 10 or 11 months. The ones that you see lining the back right there have been in there for 3 years. Bill Hall left something in here to give me something to talk about. Any other questions? There are no further. Yes, ma'am.
Are there shoots in all these empty pots?
Yep. What Miss Cheryl's done is she's taking. We actually have a field growing up. We'll be passing by it once we start heading, or once we get back in the trolley, finish up with our tour. We'll be passing by the field that we're actually taking propagation from to get them in these pots. Back where I'm from, we got a little something called the Pecan Festival. People go nuts that time of year. Coming up on the left-hand side of the trolley, I got a couple more fields for you. If you take a look at the one that's closest to the tree line, you can really notice those tender shoots of new growth that are cropping up on the top of the plants. Like I made mention of back at the Lipton Research Field, that's what we ultimately cut, harvest, and process into the tea that you guys have a chance to enjoy once you get back into the gift shop. I'll acquaint you with the means by which we do so once we get around to the tail end of the tour. But if you take a look to the right-hand side of the trolley in the meantime, we got another beautiful tree for you to take a gander at. That is a live oak tree believed to be about 200 to 250 years old. It's what we
Can't
call
do
the
that.
wedding
Wrong
oak,
side of the bus.
because we host weddings out here. As a matter of fact, we host events of all kinds. Weddings, of course, but also business luncheons, even birthday parties. You guys be interested in hosting an event out here yourself, and why wouldn't you? It's beautiful, if I do say so myself. Then just go online to our webpage. You can find the contact information for Miss J. Knight, and we would be happy to have you. But in the meantime, if you're looking for something else to do on Wadmalaw Island, I'm afraid there's not too terribly much to do other than perhaps go to the distillery that's on the island.
Oh, there is. It's a good
It's a
distillery.
called Firefly.
Yeah,
They
I have
happen to
been
have
there.
a little something that they call
Yeah,
their
it's
sweet
nice.
tea vodka. which is as dangerous as it sounds, everyone. We also happen to have a winery on the island called Deepwater, so as you can tell, we got nothing but the finest beverages to offer on Wadmalaw Island, guarantee included.
No food, but you're being plenty.
And
Yeah.
if you look at the left-hand side of the trolley, this is where we're slowly but surely trying to get to 100% planted. You notice we got a couple of shrubs out here, which have the dark green, robust, lively leaves, some of which admittedly look a little stunted. Those are the ones that have actually survived an onslaught of hurricanes that the Low Country's been hit with for the past 4 or 5 years or so. As a matter of fact, I hit with Dorian in the middle of September, just a couple of months or so ago. And then we also got hit with a freak snowstorm January of 2018. It was the first time it snowed in Charleston in 30 years. And we also, on top of it all, we had a 1,000-year flood that we got hit with 4 years ago, which is as bad as it sounds, okay, everybody? We got inundated with whopping 23 inches in a matter of 2 days, and it continued to rain after that. That's what my dad back at home calls a frog strangler. Give you an idea how bad it was. Now, Miss Cheryl, she's been hard at work, as you can tell. What she had done with that field is she planted the plants individually about 18 inches apart from one another, whereas the rows themselves are going to be 2.5 feet apart from one another. What that allows for is a dense canopy and a thick root system, which is going to deprive any of those pesky seedlings that I had alluded to earlier of any sunlight and any water. Typically, it'll choke them out right then and there in the fields. But I'll go ahead and tell you, you remember those weed pullers that I made mention of? If any of those seedlings happen to crop up in between the rows of the field, start germinating right then and there, you want to know what they'll do? You pull them up right along with the weeds. How about that? Now, you guys aren't the only folks who happen to enjoy the Charleston tea plantation. Get all sorts of critters out here in these fields. They're not snacking on the leaves like I made mention of earlier, but they love the habitat it provides. You get all sorts of things ranging from rabbits, foxes, porcupines, armadillos, turkeys, white-tailed deer, two bobcats inside in the area. We even got a resident bald-headed eagle, and to top it all off, we have every single venomous snake in South Carolina.
No.
As a matter of fact, one worker said he saw Bigfoot the other day. I don't know if I believe it. He must like tea too. Now, coming up on the left-hand side of the trolley, these are a couple of Camellia sinensis bushes that Bill Hall pulled out of the greenhouse about 10 years or so ago, planted them right here next to this field, and allowed them to grow up uninhibited. This will give you a good idea what these plants will look like if we don't cut them back to tabletop height. They still have some growing room yet to do. But speaking of creatures like I was doing before, if you peer through the tree line, you just might notice an old gray horse on the right-hand side of the trolley. His name's Bandit. He might not be out there today, but he lives here on site along with his brother Bodie, a beagle dog who wandered up here 7 years ago and hasn't left Bill's side since. And you think about it, why would he want to? He gets 2 square meals a day, gets to chase all sorts of critters around the tea fields, and gets to meet friendly folks such as yourselves. So I guess some dogs really do go to heaven. Now I'll crank Bill back up. He's got some tea trivia for you and a quick exam. So good luck on the test, folks. Have you guys been taking notes back there?
Here are some interesting facts about the world of tea. Tea is the second most consumed beverage in the world. Can anyone guess which beverage is number 1?
Water?
If you said water, you're right. Here's another one. Does anyone know which country drinks the most tea per capita? If you said Ireland, you're right again.
Oh, I never would have thought Ireland.
Followed closely by the English. 80% of all the tea consumed in America is iced. Here in the South, that figure goes to 99%. Iced tea was invented in America at the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair. The India Pavilion was trying to serve hot tea on a very hot day. Alas, there were no takers until they added ice, and bingo, a new beverage was discovered.
Alrighty, everybody, I'll direct your attention to the left-hand side of the trolley. This will be the last thing I'll leave you with today. That green machine right there is what the French would refer to as the piece de resistance of the Charleston tea plantation. That machine is the Green Giant. That's our mechanical harvester. It was put together by Lipton in the early 1970s using parts of a cotton harvester and parts of a tobacco harvester. You see, they were trying to figure out how to get around our labor costs, because labor in the United States, to be quite frank, is very expensive, especially comparatively speaking to other parts around the world where they cultivate tea, and they pay people pennies on the dollar to tediously pluck, no pun intended, leaf after leaf. Now, I have any volunteers out here in this trolley like start plucking tea leaves for a living? I didn't think so, folks. So Lipton was trying to figure out how to get around that issue, and that ultimately is the fruit of their labor. With that machine right there, it cuts back on the amount of people we need to work out here in these fields by quite a bit, because otherwise it would take 500 people to harvest our 127 acres worth of tea. How about that? You want to know how many people it actually takes to harvest our 127 acres with that machine right there? It takes 5. You were very close. As a matter of fact, you remember those weed pullers I made mention of? That's all that they do, is they pull weeds. Then we happen to have Felix, our harvester. He's the only guy that we've trusted to do so for the past 16 years. And last but not least, we got a guy by the name of Mike, who actually works out back in the processing plant, the factory. He actually made all the tea that you guys had the chance to enjoy. So kudos to Mike. But here we are back at where we began. I hope that you guys have had a tea-rific time with me. Thanks for tagging along with me. Be sure to try out all the tea we got in the gift shop.
All things tea.
From 7 to 10 cuttings from the same bush. Incidentally, the tea bush is naturally insect and disease resistant. It can grow for hundreds of years, yet still maintain a high quality level of leaf production. And we are very proud of our all natural growing